right, great. So let's get started with Pilates. Find our mats. If you have water nearby, grab it, have it nearby. You can put your device maybe towards your feet if you don't want to constantly look toward the side. We're going to start with our breathing, inhaling through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth. In our neutral spine position with a small space under the lower back, be able to get a few fingers underneath that lower back. Inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. If there's anything on your mind, try to push those thoughts away. We're going to focus on our breathing and on the muscles we're working. Inhale through the nose, exhale out through pursed lips. This is what I sound like when I whistle, actually, because I can't whistle. On the next exhale, we're going to move into an imprinted lower back. So taking that lower back down to the mat, using our abdominals. So now, no more fingers, nothing can get underneath that lower back when you're in imprint. Inhale, return to neutral, tailbone on the floor. Exhale, imprint, as the lower back goes down, the tailbone lifts up. Just going to shift between our imprint and neutral a couple times, coordinating with the breath here. Basically, you're just going to feel your pelvis kind of rock back and forth. And then from here, we're going to hold on to the imprint and lift the legs to tabletop, one at a time. Shins parallel to the floor, thighs perpendicular. On the exhale, you're going to maintain the imprint while you lower one leg to the floor. Trying your best to maintain that 90-degree knee bend. Exhale, inhale. You should start to feel your quads and hip flexors a little bit as well, but mostly here in the abdominals. Trying to keep tension out of the neck and shoulder area. Got a couple more times on each side. Should feel tension here and then more tension as the legs reaches away. Feel free to keep going with the single leg alternating, or you can try double leg lowering. And you can lower part way down if you like, especially if you feel the lower back come off the mat. Still coordinating the movement with the breath. Exhale, lower. Inhale to lift. Trying your best to keep that imprint firmly on the ground. This is our Pilates warm-up. Do one more here. And then drop the heels to your butt. You should feel your quads relax. Place your feet on the ground, hip distance apart. Inhale. Exhale, slowly roll up one vertebra at a time, inch by inch, articulating. Shoulders, hips, knee joints are going to be in one straight line at the top. Inhale, and then exhale, slowly roll down. Try your best to feel your spine lower inch by inch until your tailbone hits the floor. Inhale, you're in neutral. Exhale, you imprint, roll up, hips up, pressing through the heels. Inhale at the top, exhale, roll down. Inhale. Keeping the eye gaze on the ceiling. Again, no tension in the head and neck. And when you lift your hips, the pressure should be in the shoulder blades and in your feet, your heels, not in the back of your head. If you're not sure, you can try lifting your head. But there should be no tension in the neck whatsoever. Good, one more. Great way to make sure your spine has mobility here. We're coming just to neutral. We're not hyperextending. We're not pushing the hips higher than the knees, or I should say to an arched back position. Good, back on the ground with the tailbone. Inhale, exhale. As you let the abdominals sink down. You're going to use your rectus abdominals to pull your hips, your ribs towards your hips. Inhale, hold, and exhale, release. The basic movement of a crunch is your rib cage sliding towards your hips. This causes spine flexion. Inhale, exhale. Inhale for a hold, and exhale, release with control. It is a little challenging to take a nice deep breath in when your abdominals are contracted, but that's part of the challenge. Learning how to breathe, not holding your breath. Good. We're going to go into hundreds. So that means we're lifting the head, neck, and shoulders up and keeping it up. So endurance of the abs. Go ahead and crunch. You can keep your feet on the floor, legs to tabletop, legs straight on the vertical or legs straight on the diagonal. Pump those arms. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 10. Inhale. Exhale. You can have your legs vertical here, which is a nice hamstring stretch. You can bend your knees to tabletop with your knees and feet together. And you can always place the feet down on the ground. Halfway done here. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2. Inhale. Exhale. 70. Inhale. Exhale. 80. Inhale. Exhale. 90. Inhale. Exhale. 100. Slowly bring the knees in. Try to flow from one movement to the other without collapsing or dropping limbs to the floor. We're targeting our core muscles, which are any muscle that attaches to the spine and pelvis. So now specifically, we're going to work on the muscles around the spine. Gently pressing into those forearms. Lift the chest and try to keep the head and neck aligned with the chest as you lift. These are all basic principles of Pilates, trying to keep the head and neck constantly aligned with the spine. If the spine is curved, then the curvature follows the neck and the head. In this case, we're doing spine extension. So we're gently, slightly arching our spine. So my eye gaze goes from neutral spine here, staring straight into the mat to when I'm fully extended, fully extended. Everyone's going to be different. My eye gaze is probably 6 to 8 inches ahead of the floor from where my eye gaze started. I'm keeping my feet on the mat for now. And if you feel like you don't need the assistance, you want to get a little more range of motion in your shoulder blades, you can take those arms and reach it toward your toes. The same way you're reaching your fingertips toward your toes for the abdominal crunch, you're doing it now for spine extension. Great for your postural muscles, helping you sit nice and tall. Opposite of flexion. Good. Last one here. You can take the hands underneath your shoulders, press yourself up, and give yourself a nice spine stretch. Coming into a plank. You can do planks on your knees, on elbows, on wrists. I'm going to do this one on the elbow and on my toes. So first I get my elbows underneath my shoulders, and then I reach the heels to the back of the room. So a really strong, good plank that challenges the abs without putting bad pressure on the lower back. Generally has the pelvis or hips right around shoulder heights. Eye gaze on your thumbs. Inhale. On the exhale, squeeze your abdominals, draw it up and in toward your spine. Inhale again. Exhale, squeeze your butt. Keep squeezing your abs too. Inhale. On the exhale, squeeze your quadriceps. Continue to squeeze your abs, butt, and now adding the quadriceps. So really thinking about stabilizing that entire midsection, that lumbopelvic hip area. One more breath in and exhale. Go ahead and release. And come to sitting a seated position, front half of your mat. You can always adjust your body. If you're in the front half, then you'll be able to roll down without having to shift. Gonna keep those shoulders down or relax away from the ears for a half roll back. Exhale. Inhale to lengthen as much as you like through the spine, or you can keep that C curve. So here we exhale, and if I come up and I want to maintain the C curve, I just keep my abdominals drawn in. I'm going to feel more abs here when I come halfway back than I do when I'm lengthened. This kind of feels relaxed to me. So I kind of prefer the C curve on the way back and neutral on the way up. Exhale, spine flexion, inhale, spine neutral. If you keep your arms forward, it helps to counterbalance the movement. You can add a little more work by changing the position of your arms. Try to keep those 10 toes anchored to the mat. I'm going to take my back arm and I'll gently touch my front shoulder. Good. Return, inhale. Exhale, as I C curve back, I'm going to bring the front arm to the back shoulder. Still trying to go the same range of motion. About halfway down. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. I'm going to do 2 more. You can do a single tap, or if you want, both arms are going to go. This is the most challenging. Exhale. So the weight of your arms is going over to where your abs are. Inhale. And last time, exhale. Inhale. I'm going to go ahead and roll all the way down. Slowly, slowly. Articulating. 1 vertebra at a time. For our roll-ups, we have a couple options. You can do it with one leg and tabletop to start, or you can have both heels on the ground. So I'm going to do the front leg and then the back leg, and that'll keep both heels on the ground. I'm going to show you variations. Biceps by the ears to start, engage the abs. So here we're not arching the back and relax. Keep the rib cage down. Inhale, arms reach to the ceiling, nod the chin. Exhale to straighten that front leg. And use your abs to roll up and over. Reach as far as you can for that hamstring stretch. You're also stretching your lower back and upper back. Inhale, start to roll back. And then exhale, keep the heels anchored as you roll down nice and slow. Back leg comes up. I'm not resting my arms on the floor here. They're just biceps are right by the ears. Inhale. See if we can do this nice and smoothly. Exhale. That exhale takes you all the way through the stretch. When you're done exhaling all the air out of your lungs, inhale again, and then exhale. I'm going to keep my heels down for the next few. Try to make this as smooth and as controlled as possible. Inhale, transitioning slowly and smoothly into it. Inhale. If you want to keep the C curve, you can. Don't have to necessarily straighten up before you roll down. The roll-up is a pretty challenging exercise. You might find yourself getting stuck a little bit. Sometimes the spine doesn't smoothly come off the floor. But the more you do this, the more your spine will become more mobile. Develop that strength and flexibility. Pilates is one of those great exercises, great formats where once you achieve one certain movement, for instance, the roll-up, so if you get to the roll-up nice and smoothly, you can start adding more intensity. For instance, changing the arm position as you roll down. Well, so if your arms are by your ears as you roll down, keep the heels. You want to keep the heels down, not let them pop up. Last one here. Inhale. So again, taking the arms straight up to the ears right away instead of keeping them low. will challenge your abs a little bit more as you move. All right, always got to adjust the pants after preaching the roll up. Okay, so let's do some single leg circles. If you have a lot of flexibility, you can keep both legs straight. I generally don't, so I'm going to bend the bottom knee. I'm going to circle across the midline on the inhale and exhale. As we bring it back from 6 o'clock to 12. So when I talk about these circles, these single leg circles, I'm not making reference to any size. You can make a circle as large as you want to, but note that if you go too large and your whole body tilts, then your body, your abs aren't able to stabilize. So you want to keep your pelvis stuck and glued to the floor. There is only one motion happening. It is the hip, the thigh bone, and the hip socket joint. So if you find that your body's constantly rocking back and forth, then you want to make the circle smaller. Don't go as far to the right or left. You want to go as high as you can toward your head for that nice hamstring stretch and really work the quads and hip flexors. So this is a strength and stretching one. I really like this exercise because I really need a hamstring stretch. This supports the knees. So if you have any sort of knee pain, this is a great way of working and supporting the muscles around your knee joints. So one more time in this direction, I'm going over the midline, crossing my midline, going over my back leg, and then out to the side. Reverse direction. So starting from the 12 o'clock, we inhale, exhale, circle up and around, inhale. The idea is that it's more work to bring the leg from low to high. So that's why we exhale there. But if you want to reverse the breathing, that's fine. As long as you are alternating the breath and breathing, it's fine what you choose to do. Now, one other thing to watch out for is that the other leg is not moving either. So we shouldn't be falling to the side or anything. There's absolutely nothing moving but the one leg, the one straight as can be leg. All right, let's finish this up here. Should we start to feel some muscular fatigue? Bend the knees, relax the leg, roll the ankle around. Reverse direction. This exercise can seem very simple if you don't fight to keep the leg straight and really extend through the toes. And then also stabilize with the abs. So let's take the other leg. This back leg is my right leg. I have a little more flexibility in my hamstring on my right leg. So maybe I can make my circle a little bigger, but really not by much. Learn about your body as you do Pilates. With one hip, moving smoothly, and one hip moving kind of, like it's constantly adjusting. I don't necessarily have a cure for that, but sometimes it just means that there's less range of motion or something going on in that hip joint you may want to see a doctor about. For me, it comes and goes. That's reverse direction. Still alternating the breath, right? Inhale at the top, exhale at the bottom. So for me, my left hip sometimes misbehaves. It's like, has this like crackling motions. But other times, like today, it feels great. I do think temperature has something to do with it too. Nice warm room. Couple more. Keep fighting to keep that leg as straight as possible. Pull it toward your head as much as you can. Get that hamstring stretch. Last one here. And hug your knee in. When you hug your knee in, relax. We're going to give our hip flexors and quads a little bit break. So you already have one knee pulled in, so go ahead and pull in your other knee. We're going to do single leg, stretch, During this ab series, you can keep the head, neck, and shoulder blades down the entire time or up the entire time or a combination of the two. The only exercise that requires that the head, neck, and shoulders are lifted is the bicycle or the crisscross. All right, so first for our single leg stretch, you can stretch your legs high or diagonal or very low. Inhale to switch, exhale. Inhale, exhale. I'm exhaling as I stretch the leg out, inhaling as I transition. Once I've decided I'm lifting my head, neck, and shoulder blades, I'm going to make sure with my abs to keep the shoulder blades clearly off the mat. So it's not like my shoulder blades are halfway on the mat. It is either on or it's off. Head, neck, and shoulders are on or it's off. Good. So for the crisscross or the bicycle, this is where we twist like this, working the obliques. This is the one exercise where you do want your head, neck, and shoulder blades off the ground. You want to lift your shoulder blades high enough so that when you do the rotation, as one goes a little lower to the ground, it doesn't actually hit the ground. We're trying to keep both off the ground. One is higher than the other. Inhale, transition, exhale, twist. 4 and 3 and 2, moving into double leg stretch here. Again, feel free to put the head, neck, and shoulders on the ground. When you do that, your arms can go as far as your ears. Tabletop, any diagonal you'd like. Now, if my head, neck, and shoulders are off, I'm still only going to come as far as my ears. So my arms can't reach as far back, but it is definitely more challenging with the head, neck, and shoulders off the ground. So I don't really want to reach that much further back anyways. Exhale, reach. Inhale, return. Reach, return. Last 2. Last one. Good. From here, we straighten the legs. Again, stretching those hamstrings, working those quads and hip flexors for the scissors. Good. Exhale here. Inhale to switch. Exhale. Think of the toes reaching high and away. Constantly lengthening that leg in whichever direction it's facing. Try not to grab behind your knees, grab your calves, or grab your hamstrings so that we don't encourage bending of the knees. Give me 2 more. Good, and finish. Let's give our abs a little break. Come onto our stomach. So let's practice lifting our legs. Our feet are going to be at least shoulder distance apart. We want to lift one leg at a time, nice and straight. So yes, our quads are working again, but this time instead of engaging the hip flexors, we're engaging the glutes, which is the opposite muscle of the hip flexors. So we're kind of stretching our hip flexors just a little bit. My leg is as straight as possible when I lift off the ground. Good. I'm going to add the upper body here. I've stacked my hands underneath my forehead. When I lift my front leg, I'm going to lift the chest and arms. Adding a little bit of resistance to the spine work. If this feels like too much, you can keep the legs on the ground, or you can keep the arms on the ground. So if I kept the arms on the ground, it looks like this. Just kind of press into my forearms again. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Again, just keep alternating the breath. The important thing is that you're breathing. Last 2. All right, so once again, we're going to stretch our spine. And I'm going to go into another plank. I'm going to do the plank this time on my wrist. If you have any wrist sensitivities, feel free to do it on your elbows. I'm going to do a little bit of rocking motion. So I'm going to start with my elbows underneath my shoulders. I'm going to reach one heel to the back and then the other. Good. You can see that my heels are reaching really far back and my ankle is really, really flexed. And so if I push into my toes, I'll rock forward a couple inches. And then I'm going to reach back again, stretch my calves. And that's what I'm going to do. If this feels like a lot for your wrist, you can definitely do it on your elbows. You can also scoot your toes back a little bit so your wrists bend less. So now I'm coming to about 90 degrees and then a little greater than 90 degrees. But note that if you scoot your toes back a little bit, it may be less on the wrists and shoulders, but it definitely feels a little bit more on the abs. Exhale to rock back. Inhale, rock forward. Exhale, rock back. Eye gaze on the floor between your thumbs. A little more challenging when you rock back. Adjust your feet as needed. They kind of shift around a little bit. Don't forget we're squeezing abs, glutes, and quadriceps as we do the plank. Last one. Good, go ahead and come on down. So again, you're going to feel kind of all the same muscles being engaged here throughout. So let's give our quads a break and work on the outer thighs. If you use the edge of your mat, you can lie nice and straight. With your arm up, you should feel a little struggle to be balanced. If you find that with the kickstand hand, you still feel very unstable, you can bend the bottom knee and it'll give a little bit more stability, okay? You want to try to use your abs to help stabilize the body. So if you can, keep your legs straight, arms, head, everything in one alignment, and use the few fingers for kickstand. That's ideal. So we're going to really focus on not just the outer thighs. Push those hips down, lengthen the leg away. Once again, since our legs are straight, that means the quads are engaged. But we want to also work on ankle mobility. So I'm pointing as I go up, flexing as I go down. Inhale, point, lift. Exhale, flex lower. I always do a ton of this first one just because I'm setting it up. But after this, I'll aim to count to 8 every time. Be very deliberate with your movements. We're pointing. We're lifting to exactly hip height. We're stopping there. We're flexing. And then we're lowering with control. We're not just dropping the leg. And the entire time I'm reaching with the toes away. And then when I flex, I'm constantly reaching with the heels away. So my top leg is constantly active. Now I'm going to bring the bottom leg with it. So I'm going to point both legs. And I'm going to flex both feet and lower with control. Point. Here I'm going to feel a little bit more obliques. If your top leg is tired, you might be able to let your bottom leg carry a little bit more of the weight as it pushes up. Kind of thinks it all boils down to what your mind thinks of it. So if I really bring the focus to my bottom leg and let the bottom leg do all the lifting here, and then let it control the lowering, I do feel a little more inner thigh. But if I think about both legs doing its own weight and like using the top leg's outer thigh muscles to help lift as well, I don't feel as much in the bottom leg. All right, so we're going to lift the top leg only. I'm just going to keep the foot pointed for now. And we're just going to let the bottom leg kind of shuttle between, like it's a ricochet ping pong ball just bouncing between the top and the bottom, top, bottom. So endurance of the top leg's outer thigh, and then we should feel the inner thigh of the bottom leg. Squeeze, squeeze. When your heels connect, or your arches of the foot connect, imagine like you just grabbed a $100 bill. Squeeze it for a moment, and then release. Squeeze. Well, you technically don't want to release the money. I did say I was going to count to 8, didn't I? And I definitely am not doing that. All right, we're going to scissor. 1 forward, 1 back. This is challenging because we want to keep both legs off the ground. Try to keep your leg as straight as possible. There's no set distance on how much you have to scissor. All right. So one thing that I haven't done is the leg circles. And I'm just intentionally doing this a little more out of order than I usually do, just to change things up. So now I'm taking the top leg. I'm going to make small circles in one direction, very small, size of a small line. Keep alternating the breath. Inhale and then exhale. Now, before you reverse direction, flex the foot. Imagine an ink smudge on your heel and then draw circles in the opposite direction. This is the killer. This move always really fatigues, and we often do it second, and then my legs are just so dead. So I decided to do this at the very end. Not because I wanted everything to be fatigued by the time we do it, but that exercise generally does fatigue everything. All right, let's switch sides. So same thing. Most likely I will not count properly. So we have the top leg, inhale, point, lift, exhale, flex, lower. Number of reps is important, but there are other things that are more important. I've got to talk about quality of the movement, which is why I spend more time talking about position and technique than on actual counting. I wish I had someone counting for me. And then it's also based on how you feel. Like if you do 8 reps, but you don't feel anything, it's not fatiguing to you, well, then you haven't done enough that challenges you. So you want to go to the point where you feel challenged. I realize that all of us are probably moving at different tempos anyways, so my 8 might not be your 8. My 8 could be your 12, or it could be your 4. So when your muscles feel pretty fatigued and you want it to rest, then rest. So again, getting ankle mobility here. All right, and then if your top leg is starting to feel as tired as mine, we're gonna let the bottom leg assist us. So both legs, toes pointed, and then lift, both feet flex and lower. You're gonna feel it here in the obliques. Point, lift, flex, lower. Keep alternating the breath. I just happen to be inhaling as I lift and exhaling as I lower. For some reason, that's the learning that I got in my training. There is a reason. Generally, we exhale when it's more exertion, so it makes more sense to probably lift the leg and exhale at the same time. Okay. So from here, we're going to do our ricochet leg. So lift just the top leg. I just keep my legs, my toes pointed the whole time for this. Squeeze and lower. Squeeze. Catch the Benjamins. The C note. What is a C note? $100 bill, right? Can't even remember the last time I saw a $100 bill except in maybe a Hollywood movie. Doing my best to keep my top leg absolutely still. It is held parallel and it's still at the same height. And I'm intentionally squeezing my bottom leg up to meet the top one. I'm not bringing the top one down to the bottom. Okay, from here we're going to scissor. I do this slowly. You're going to feel the obliques, but just so that you can maintain balance. So you can sort of feel what's happening. As one leg goes forward, they should be both traveling at the same distance and speed apart from each other to counterbalance each other. And the faster you move, the harder it is to coordinate that. I also can do the right split better than my left. So when my right leg is forward, I can go a little farther with both legs compared to when my left leg is forward, my right leg also barely goes back. That's how it is. Okay, I know we're really fatigued, but we're gonna do one more exercise, and it's that little circle. Just the top leg, toes pointed, circle for 6, 5, slow, 4, 3, 2, reverse, flex the foot, circle with the heel. Last one. All right, you're probably pretty fatigued in the outer thighs. Let's do a quick stretch here. Ankle to the opposite knee. Bring the legs in as close as you want to your chest so you feel the stretch. I feel it pretty intensely. I don't have to bring it that far in. And then switch. Oh, this side's even tighter. I probably should stretch a lot more than I actually do. All right. Working on the glutes. We're right in position for it. So position your feet hip distance apart. Press the heels. Lift your butt straight off the ground with no articulation. So there's a difference between rolling up inch by inch, which is what we did in the warm-up, and basically a quick lift and lower. Yeah, I know your quads are probably really fatigued from like keeping our legs straight and stuff, so we're gonna keep the knees bent. I am going to push my hips up. Both right and left hips should go to the exact same height. And all the work is being done by my back legs, glutes. Definitely a lot more work. If you feel your hamstrings cramping up doing this, then just don't do as many reps and just keep switching sides. I'm counting. This is 6. We're going to do 8 on each side. So if you want to do 4s and 4s, that works. Good. This exercise is all about that butt cheek. It's all about the glutes, the hip extension. One glute should be able to lift both sides of your pelvis up to the same height. There shouldn't be a tilt. Okay, 4 more. So since my front leg is down, it makes sense that my front hip goes really high. My back hip shouldn't be dipping low just because my back leg is lifted. 2 more. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more glute work here. So we're not quite done yet. I'm going to flip over and come to our hands and knees. So again, hip extension is basically anytime our hips are flexed like this, and then we push it up so it's a straight line. So we did that when we pushed the hips up in the air from the floor. And now in our quadruped position, my hips are flexed, right? They're at like 90 degrees. I'm going to take my front leg. So wrist underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. This is a hip extension. Okay, and I'm going to extend it further. I have my foot's flexed by squeezing the butt, lifting the knee a little bit higher than my spine. I need you to brace your abs and keep the spine as much in neutral as possible. Because it's really easy to flex the spine and then arch the back. It's not what we're aiming for here. Neutral spine the whole way. Footprint to the ceiling. Feel your butt squeeze. Give me 2 more. Good. Other leg. It's always good to kind of reset. Make sure your knees are directly underneath the hips. You can point your toes here. we're not really focused on the foot. It's just the concept of footprint to the ceiling makes more sense when your foot's flexed compared to when your toes pointed. But yeah, you can point your toes if you want. Again, brace the abs. Keep it in neutral. Okay. So again, that's continuing our glute extension. And now let's focus. This is once again a hip extension, front leg, but now this is going to be a little more focused on the spine. Because we're going to keep the leg straight. You can keep the back arm on the floor, or you can lift with opposites as we pulse. Couple inch lift, and then return to parallel. Called spinal balance with the pulse. So we're working on our spinal muscles. At the same time, we are working on our balance. Return limbs, right the other side. Try your best to maintain neutral spine. You have range of motion in your shoulders and in your hip sockets. So you should be able to move the arm and leg without disturbing your spine. That takes concentration and body awareness. Give me 4 more. 3, 2, and 1. Good. If you prefer being on your hands and knees to work on spinal balance, you can. I'm going to give another option here, coming down to the mats. The footprint to the ceiling. All right, we're already in neutral, so it's really hard to come out of neutral when you're lying on the floor, because the floor just helps your body maintain this. So if you need to look for a few reps, you can watch my thigh comes off the ground, footprint to the ceiling. But I am going to keep my head and neck aligned with my spine, so I'm not going to look at the Zoom camera. I'm going to rest my forehead on the stacked hand. Exhale to lift, inhale to lower. You can pretty much lift your leg as high as you want. Lift your thighs as high as you want, because it's really hard, like I said, to get your spine out of neutral when you're lying on the ground. But if you start to feel strain in the lower back, and you want to try to brace your abs, even though you're lying on it, you want to try to brace your abs so that you don't accidentally strain your back. All right, let's try the other leg. There is a possibility that you can strain your lower back here. And again, it's kind of a strange concept, but you can draw your abs up and in toward your spine and engage your abs even as you're laying on them. Continue to footprint to the ceiling, a couple more times. Great, and then the other exercise we did, reach your arms and legs to the corners of the mats, kind of like a narrow X. And we don't have to worry about the balance, right? Because we're on the floor, so we're lifting the back arm and the front leg nice and straight on the diagonal and lower. Now, as I lift my arm, I generally lift my chest a little bit. That means my head and neck are also going to lift a little bit because it's traveling with my chest. So you don't need to glue your nose to the floor, but you don't want to look up, right? You want to keep your head and neck aligned with the spine. Where the chest travels and lifts a little bit because it's connected to the arm, your head and neck will go as well. Try to keep your legs straight. Reaching on the diagonal. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Okay, one more time on each side. We generally do a lot more ab work than spine work. The abs are definitely a little stronger than the spine. It doesn't mean we don't want the balance of the spine muscles. All right. We're going to do rolling like a ball, which is kind of momentum based. So if you don't want to hit the back of your head, but if you draw your abdominals in and make yourself fall back, you'll create this roll, and you should be able to roll yourself back up with momentum. Now, if you use too much momentum, right, like I pull my knee in, I shoot my legs out, if you use too much momentum, you'll notice you don't feel your abs at all. So one way of trying to figure out, How should I feel my abs? The great way is to start here on the bottom and figure out how you're going to get up. Crunch. Crunch. I'm getting stuck here, but I'm starting to create a little movement. So I'm really trying to keep my legs relaxed. Not use my legs at all. Use my abs. Crunch, fall. Crunch, fall. Crunch. I let gravity allow me to fall. Gravity just pulls me down. And eventually I get myself up, crunching. Okay, using my abs. And the same principle is what you're going to use when you do your teaser. So from here, from a dead stop, lift your arms, lift your head, neck, and shoulder blades. From a dead stop, you're trying to crunch your way up. Most likely you can't make it up without a couple repetitions, right? We can extend our legs and use our legs to help transfer some of that weight. So the two exercises are very interrelated. Good. So once we're up here on the inhale, extend the leg, slowly roll down, control. Good. If we don't extend the leg first, the gravity will just pull straight back and start that kind of rocking and rolling motion again. All right. The rolling feels great against the spine, but we want our abs to be involved. Inhale, arms, head, shoulder blades. Exhale, crunch and extend your legs just fast enough or quick enough or slow enough that you can come up. Good. If I keep my knees in and I pull it in and I round my spine, guess what? I just fall. We don't want to just fall. We want to lower our torso with control of our abs. Do two more teasers. Inhale, arms, head, shoulders. Exhale, legs and spine. Inhale, hold. Exhale, extend the legs again, which allows the controlling and lowering of your torso. If you want to keep your legs straight, go for it. Inhale, arms, head, shoulders. Exhale. Inhale. And if your legs are still straight, just keep them where they are. You're already in position to counterbalance the roll down. Should we try one more for good measure? If you want to try one more straight legged, go ahead. Inhale and exhale. Good. Stretch your body. Forget the imprint. Allow your rib cage to pop up. Allow it massive, massive arch. This is a great way to stretch your abs. Just crunch. Your arms are resting on the floor nice and heavy. So let your legs completely relax. You bring the soles of your feet together. Open up those hips. Allow gravity to take hold of your knees. And just relax. So notice the position your body's in when you're relaxed. Like you're really not imprinted, right? Your abdominals are just released. Your shoulder blades are probably in the same spot, but it's usually this whole rib cage, pelvis midsection that is lifted and not imprinted. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates. Ugh. Kind of a nice back to basics one. I find that to be helpful every once in a while. Let me know if you have any questions.